Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of Lingerie and Lattes. So, for today, I want to discuss this idea of women being in relationships and how many times we have believed that monogamous relationships are putting women at a disadvantage. And I want to challenge that with some statistics. I want to challenge that with just some questioning of whether that's really true. If you don't know who I am or what this series is about, then my name is Olivia Drumaga, and I founded Vulcan Ability back in 2020 in order for this to be really an educational guide for women and men to learn more about each other and be able to create wonderful, lasting relationships. So, this idea of women being somehow taken advantage of in marriage or seen in relationships as someone who has no say in them. I will preface this by saying many times women do have difficulty to voice their needs and to actually follow through and give themselves what they deserve. However, this is actually pretty independent from the oppression of a man. Actually, women within themselves are almost blocked from that receptivity or from the ability to be open about themselves, not really just because of the men in their relationships or even their previous relationships with men, but even beyond that, there's been a lot of cultural dynamics that have essentially forced women to just be quiet and sit down. Now, a lot of people can blame that on the patriarchy and see it as the role of men. I don't really like to put a whole species at odds with each other. So I think if in the humanity in our world we have men and women, there's no reason for women to claim that all of their problems are coming from men, just as men have really no right to claim that all their problems are stemming from women. We have to learn about the differences that exist in both of these sexes and learn how to cultivate a bridge basically to understand the other sex. So I came around this subject because I was looking into marriages and I was thinking about it like every one of my anecdotal situations. I've always heard that women are the ones that have initiated divorce, or they're the ones that have kind of like dangled it like a carrot in front of their husbands. And I was curious, like, how does that add up to the follow through in the statistics in the modern age with divorce? Because divorce is so common, and I wanted to know who initiates it more. So I did a quick research, and there was a study conducted over, I think, a period of around 5 or so years that was published, 5 or 7 years, that was published with around over 2,153 or so couples that participated. All of them were heterosexual. And they observed, how many people ended up with divorce and so forth. And I think there was like a percentage of, I don't know what the percentage was, but I believe there was about 500 or so couples, somewhere in the hundreds, that divorced, and 69% of the divorce was initiated by the woman. So this is a small sample, but in a broader scheme, this is actually a cultural phenomenon. Now, many people will say now women have more voices, they have more rights, not voices, they have more rights to voice their needs and whatever in a relationship, in the world, society, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually something historically that has been true since 1940s and even 1930s and before. So woman initiating divorce is not new. And it is highly skewed if we notice the numbers. I mean, it is pretty much 70% of women who desire divorce, or I'm sorry, out of the 100% of divorce that happens, 70% of that is initiated by the woman. Now, if you think through normalities of our situation right now, a lot of people before they choose marriage, especially if they're making a good amount of income, are asking for prenups. So this allows me to start questioning who walks out of a divorce in a better position. And there's no statistics that I have currently researched on this subject. So again, Lingerie and Lattes is a lot more about just my philosophical perspective on relationships and dynamics between men and women. My other series, like Vulcan Ability, library and the classroom and the academy all have hard facts behind it. This is just kind of my own musings along with some data research that I did and that I have done. So if we think about who walks away in a better position after divorce, many times this is kind of the overarching joke is that men are left with nothing, or the woman takes everything, the house, the kids, the car, half the money, blah blah blah, and she walks away. So I started wondering, if this is also even as a stereotype that women are better off than men after a divorce. Usually, women are the ones that are finding a partner pretty soon, right after as well. I will add that. So, if we think about women in a better position after divorce, women being the ones who, in the majority, do initiate divorce, you start to question, is marriage as an institution really that unfair to women? Or does there need to be a little bit of education around the subject? And do women have to realize that we actually hold a lot more power in a relationship than we really have been aware of? I remember this as being true when I was speaking to a guy in his, I think, early 30s, maybe, or late 20s, somewhere in that age range. And he was sharing how women are always going to be the ones that decide whether a couple has physical intimacy or not. Given if this is a healthy consensual relationship, of course, these are always the context that I'm speaking about, never abusive relationships. I don't have any training in that. That's not something I deal with. So if that's something that you feel you are possibly in, do explore resources that support your journey in that, or really to get out of it. So in a healthy relationship, if the woman is really the one that dictates whether there's sex, essentially. And we add in this idea that women are the ones that, in a greater majority, are initiating divorce. They're the ones walking away from the end of a marriage or a breakup in a long-term relationship that are better off, usually the ones that are immediately granted children. And pretty much are financially better off because, again, I want to tie that back to the prenup I mentioned. When we are discussing modern relationships and women who choose to get married, many times if they're the breadwinners of the relationship, or if they are very high income earners, they will go ahead and do a prenup before they actually get married. So they're already protecting themselves as an asset before they enter the marriage. Traditionally, men who have made more income, again, traditionally, maybe not so as much in this modern day, are not really inclined to think through prenups unless there's a lot of generational wealth and there's a family influence and family office involved and so forth. However, it's usually going to be an uneven balance in a relationship, actually in favor of the woman and against the man. That's where I'm getting at with all of these things that I'm sharing for today's topic, because this was really a mind bender for me. I know that we have been spoon-fed essentially exactly how we're supposed to see relationships and who has the power here. So that's why it was so eye-opening for me to hear a man's perspective on this, and also his interpretation that women are the ones that say yay or nay. If you think about that context again, in intimacy, if we are not discussing rape of any sort, then yes, in a healthy context, women kind of are the ones like, yes, we're in the mood, we can go ahead, or like, yeah, we can, continue to have fun. Or they're kind of the ones that are like, no, not feeling it tonight, don't feel sexy, don't, I feel bloated, I don't have time because I need to wake up tomorrow for work, I blah, 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 all the excuses that women present to men as really just an evasion of intimacy, I would say, based on my experience, then we really are not accessing the amount of power that we have in dynamics with men. This should really be an eye-opener for us all, because if this is really the power that we hold on a day-to-day basis in any relationship towards a man, we would be acting differently towards them. A lot of the shift towards modern women and men right now are kind of this association that men are beneath women, that they should be always catering to them, that they should always be the ones kind of bending their backs for women. But if that's true, and we're also not acknowledging all of the power that we already kind of hold, all like as a norm, and we're asking for more, and we're not recognizing the men here, that really is creating inequality if you think about it. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope this was educational. If you would like to continue listening to these subjects, please do subscribe. And if you want to connect with me further, please do find me on Instagram and Facebook by my full name, Olivia Tumaga, or also the Priestess Flame on Instagram and my brand, Vulcan Ability. Thank you so much and have an absolutely amazing rest of your day.